Are you ready to take control of your life and join a community of like-minded women who are on a mission to live their best lives too? Healthier, happier, and wealthier? Then get ready to find the support and motivation you need to pursue your passions and goals. Get ready to develop the courage to step out of your comfort zone and try new things. Join the My Best Life Tribe membership today and unlock a world of opportunities, empowerment, and sisterhood. Our exclusive community offers courses, collaborations, workshops, events, and so much more. Don't wait any longer to start living your best life. Visit our website, www.DrStem.com, and become a part of something truly special. My Best Life Tribe, where women thrive together. www.DrStem.com.
Are you ready to bounce back?
Welcome to the Bouncing Back podcast with DrStem, where resilience meets inspiration. Join us as we explore powerful stories of overcoming adversity, share expert insights, and discover the tools you need to bounce back in life. Whether you're facing challenges or seeking motivation, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome to the Bouncing Back podcast with DrStem. I am so excited to bring our very first 2025 guest. She was teaching me how to say her name. Her name is Ashley Sweder. Welcome to the show, Miss Sweder.
Thank you for having me.
This is so exciting. So as I was explaining to you, which I will explain to the audience, this used to be the DrStem show, and now we just changed it as of January 1st to the Bouncing Back podcast with DrStem. So you are our very first guest on the podcast. So I'm so excited to have you here.
I feel so honored to be your first guest for 2025.
I know, right? So before we start, I just want to give everyone, just a brief overview of your biography. And as I mentioned, we will expand on it as we have our discussion. Miss Ashley Sweder, known as Mrs. Albania World, embodies resilience and hope after overcoming a challenging past marked by severe bullying and a toxic, abusive relationship. Following a near-fatal incident that prompted a transformative moment in her life, with the help of a compassionate doctor, Miss Ashley took control of her life and became an advocate for mental health awareness and suicidal prevention. Through public speaking and community outreach, she now inspires others around the world to recognize their worth and find their own paths to healing, serving as a beacon of empowerment for those in distress. Did I at least cover pretty much everything?
When you live it, it doesn't feel that empowering. Yes, no, you did a great job. Thank you.
Yes. So tell us, when I was reading it, I thought maybe if we start from your childhood, because bullying is still something that children struggle with, today. Tell us a little bit about what you went through yourself.
Yeah. I know that a lot of people, when I say this, they can probably relate to it. I was a very awkward child. I don't know how else to say it. I was taller as a girl, especially all your female people that are listening right now. I was very tall. I grew up very, very quickly when I was younger. I was probably in the 90th percentile. So I was about a foot taller than all the other boys, pretty much anybody in my classroom at the time. And it was then that I started getting, made fun of, that I was weird and awkward. And as a child, especially years ago, we just didn't talk about bullying. It wasn't something that, you felt like you could go to your teacher and say, hey, I'm having a bad day. These kids are making fun of me. So it just became my existence that I just felt every single day. I hated going to school. I used to cry. It was almost like traumatic in a sense. But that bullying, it started off with words, and they hurt so bad. And it used to cut me so deep. But in middle school, it really progressed into fighting and people trying to physically hurt me. I remember one time in my childhood, and I'll never forget this. I sat in a classroom and I was just hysterically crying on the desk. And a teacher turned around. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, no, there's these girls that are threatening to beat me up at school. I'm scared. They outnumber me. And at the time I had absolutely no confidence. I didn't know what to do, in one of those situations. And I just remember feeling helpless. Like, what do I do? So the teacher pulled me out of class. They put me in the principal's office and called my parents. And I think, that was protocol and what they should have done, but it made the situation even worse because then I became a complete target. I became somebody who looked like that they were telling on other people. I was completely outcasted. And at that point, I told my mother, and, we were not a family that was wealthy. We couldn't really afford private school. I'm going to be very honest. And my parents felt pressured at that point to get me into any other school they could. They were scared for my well-being. So at that point, my parents made the decision. They scrimped up any money they could and they got me into private school because they were truly afraid that I was going to be injured at school, which honestly, if they wouldn't have, I guarantee would have happened. The school that I was in, the school system that I was in was not the best. I'm just going to be very honest with you. There was an issue with children getting hurt, fighting, stabbings. So it was a very dangerous situation. So, I look back and I look at my mom and the hard decisions that she had to make. I'm a mom myself now. She had to give up a lot to get me into this school. Frankly, I don't even know how they found the money to do so. It's so expensive, but that really started my path to having a lack of self-worth and a lack of confidence. And, we'll talk more about my story, but I think that was a pivotal moment where it tore down my confidence. So it was a time when I was a teenager when I should have been building up that confidence and that self-love and that self-care. And I just didn't have it. And I think that's really, when that path started of toxicity.
Yeah. Was it here in the United States or in Albania?
It was. I went to a school in I guess I would say a smaller town in South Plainfield, New Jersey. Yeah. And I went, and then by the time I was in my first year of high school, which is not the norm that you switch schools from middle school into high school. So I went into my first year of high school in a private school, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, but the bullying didn't go away because you have to understand, somebody who cannot really afford to be in a private school, the kids know, and they knew that my parents did not have the money that a lot of their families did. I didn't have the clothes they did, the handbags. I didn't live the life that they did. So they made it very well known that, I was not really welcome in that school.
I mean, just short of, jumping, a lot, it's almost like I want to say, when did it turn around for you from being this victim, the hopeless, helpless, young girl to, maturing, and also, probably in telling that story, you might also talk about how when one starts a life like that with the bullying and everything, how you carry it also into your adulthood and relationships.
So I think for me, I very quickly developed a needing and a wanting for connection. And reflecting, talking to therapists now, I understand that what I was trying to do is I was seeking out that love and I was seeking out that acceptance. And when you don't get it in positive ways, sometimes you're going to get it in negative ways. And I think that would happen very quickly. So, I thought that being in the private school was going to change my life and the children were going to be so nice. And I was going to be in high school, and I didn't understand. I was going into a private school with kids that were very wealthy, not knowing anybody. I didn't have a chance. And I didn't know that at the time, but very quickly, people who I probably shouldn't have been hanging around with or who are dangerous, they were giving me attention. And I remember my first relationship, I'm just going to be very transparent. I started going out with my girlfriends, going to clubs, yes. And a baseball player ended up being very successful in baseball, was the first person to kind of give me attention. And that relationship was awful. He was extremely abusive. It was a shorter relationship, but I just didn't even know what I was getting myself into. Yeah. And that's when it started. And it was like, no matter what I did at that point, I kept attracting, people that were awful for me. And I think now I know that the issue was I didn't love myself. And I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have the self-love to understand what I deserved. So I would never victim blame and say, somebody's attracting that. But realistically, I was accepting the way I was being treated. And that's why it kept happening. So that's really the trajectory that my life turned. And I think the worst turn that I had was I ended up meeting somebody who's a lot older than me. And this relationship lasted for a good 2 years. And he at the time was a good 15, even more years older than me. So that should have been the first red flag. Anybody that even saw us together, I was barely, 19 years old when I met him. Mm-hmm. And we were together for a few years. And I'll never forget, my mom looked at me and said, don't do this. Like, do not do this. Do not leave the house. Like, you need to stay at home with your family. We'll help you. We'll support you. You're in college, stay with your family. And I didn't know it at the time, but he was very, very slowly cutting everybody out of my life. The first person was my sister. My sister did not like him. My sister did not trust him. And she told me, like, do not go with this person. And at the time, I thought it was just us arguing. And I'm like, well, she's not going to support me. Like, no, she should be supporting me. And then I spent more time with him. Then I met his family. And even his family, his mother was trying to cut me off from my life. It got to a point where I didn't even speak to my own mother for like 6 months. Oh. And she is my best friend in the whole world. And it was so bad. And I had nowhere to go. I ended up moving out of my house at such a young age, and I moved in with him. So here I am moving in with this man who's, 15 years older than I am. We're in two completely different stages in our life. Now I'm not going to my college classes. So college is now out the window. Like, I have no future in front of me. It just felt like very quickly I was in this cage, like this prison, because it gets to a point where they pull you away. And then it's, well, what do I do? I'm stuck. Who am I going to call? I felt, at any time I could have called my mother and she would have just put her arms out and said, I don't care what happened. Just, come here. I'm going to help you. I didn't feel like that. I felt like, well, I just turned my back on my family. I'm with this older man. I don't know what to do. I felt stuck. And back then we didn't have Instagram and Facebook, all these groups that, you could reach out to for help. Yes. And it very quickly became toxic. And there was a point I'll never forget where he put his hands around my neck and he was just like, you're not going anywhere. And I just looked at him and I said, like, that's when it turned. It was like, I'm stuck. He's right. Like, I'm not going anywhere. He had probably a good 75 pounds on me, right? He's a good, probably 6 to 8 inches taller than me. I had no chance. Yes. But that's really the way it started. And I think the average person thinks that, everything's like a fairy tale. Like, one day you just wake up and everything's going to be okay. And it's not. The world is extremely difficult sometimes. And the world is very painful sometimes. And there's sometimes where you have to go through this pain to get out the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you break free?
This is probably going to be the hardest part.
Yeah.
So there was a day where I remember I spoke to his mother, and his mother had told me something, and it struck me in my mind. And she said, I just wish he would have graduated college. And I sat down for a second. I'm like, what are you talking about? He told me he graduated college. Mm-hmm. And that's something that struck a nerve, because it sparked, like, unknowingly, that he had been lying to me about everything, about who he was, about his name. And it spiraled down to, I had no idea who I was even with. I had no idea who this person was, no idea about their family. I knew his mother and his close family. But I had no idea who this person actually was. And that's when I started doing research. And I called, at the time, Rutgers University. And I said, hey, I'm looking up alumni, and I want to look up this person. Like, we have no record of this person ever even attending the school. And my stomach just fell to the floor. And I was like, oh my gosh, who is sitting beside? I don't know who this person is. So at that point, I put my foot down and I told this person, I said, I'm leaving. Like, I don't know what's going on. You can deal with yourself. We need to be apart, work on ourselves. Like, this is not going to work. And he looked at me and he said, you're not leaving me. I said, you try and leave me. He's like, I'll kill you and I'll kill myself. You're never leaving me. And I was like, what? And at that point, it just completely went downhill. And I remember hysterically crying, and the entire situation, it's almost like a movie. You would never even think. I truly think at this point, somebody said this to me once. Mm-hmm. The things that you truly should fear are the things that you could never even think of happening, ever. And I believe that after this, because I had no idea who this person was. Yes. And at that point, I was like, what am I going to do? Who do you call at this point? So it was an absolute mess of my life. And at that point, it was just complete self-destruction. I was drinking heavily. I started cutting myself. It was an absolute disaster. And I got to a point where I just decided that, like, if I'm not going to get to decide the life that I have, then I don't need to be on this earth any longer. Like, you can take anything you want away from me. You're not going to control me like that. I can take my own life like that. That's at least something that I still own, that I can have control of. And that's what ended up happening. And I'll never forget, as sick as it was, he did love me. and he completely panicked and drove me to the hospital. And we were stopped by a police officer at that time. And the police officer came up, and I was obviously in the passenger seat. I'm laying down because I don't know how I'm still alive at this point. And the police officer comes over, and he just peeks and he's about to scream at him because he was speeding. Starts, yelling at him like, "What are you doing? This is so dangerous." And the cop just looks me dead in the eyes, and he just took okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, he looks at me and he goes, "Do you need help?" And I was like, "I do. I need help." And grabbed me. We went to the ER. I don't know how far away it was. It felt like the longest trip of my life, but I think we were pretty close, honestly. I think we were within a few minutes. They put me in. They had no beds open at the time. I remember this because they put me in a wing of the hospital that was, it had like children's pictures all over it. Animals. So it must have been like the children's part of the hospital. And I just remember the nurses and doctors and everybody was trying to like comfort me, like, it's going to be okay. Like, we've got you, like, we're going to take care of you, because I had nobody there, obviously. The police officers were dealing with him, but I just remember a male nurse coming in, and he looked at me and he grabbed a mirror and he put the mirror in front of me. If you've ever broken your orbital bone, you'll know that your orbital bone shapes your face. So if it's broken and it's pointing, it makes your face almost look non-human, like an alien. And that's what I had. So I had a badly broken orbital bone. And I remember he put the mirror in front of me and he goes, "I don't care if you think you're not worth anything. You're worth more than this. You have to be worth more than this." But he looked at me and he goes, there's nothing we can do. Like, we can't make you take care of yourself and make you make better decisions and make you stay alive. You have to make those decisions for yourself, because once you leave, like, there's only so much we can do. And that's what kind of sunk in. And that's where, I talk a lot about in a lot of my podcasts is there's at that point, I realized that there was nobody coming to save me. There was no magic wand. My life just wasn't going to turn around. There was nobody coming to save me to make my life better. So many people talk about these, shows and these Disney movies where something happens and then your life is a fairy tale afterwards, but that's not how life is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes making the conscious effort to stay alive every single day. And that's why we talk so much, about the Stay Here podcast. You'll hear us a lot of today. Why do you decide to stay on this earth today? What is your reason? Absolutely today, because every single day you're going to have to work at it.
Yes. So one day at a time, one moment at a time, but you have to make one decision too for those moments that you're living every day.
And you have to be willing to talk about it. As a country, we have come so far with talking about abuse. We've come so far with talking about drug addiction. There's so many meetings that you can go to. I want you to really think about how many people are sitting here and saying, "I'm suicidal," or "I'm extremely depressed." People are afraid to talk about it. My first pageant experience, I had a coach tell me directly, "Do not talk about this." There's a difference, right? This is one of those issues where people are going to look at you differently and you don't want them to put you in that light. And I sat back and I was, the first, pageant I did, I was not myself. I didn't talk about it much. I mean, you can see the scars. I still have scars. I've never, gotten them removed. I'm happy I didn't now, because it's a reflection of my past. And there's certain days where I almost forget my past is my past, and it brings me back to, where I was.
Yeah.
So I can keep doing the work I do. But, we have to be at a point where people can talk about this and they can, discuss this so that we have this in the forefront of everybody, because this is an epidemic. And I'm going to tell you right now, for those of you who have children, if you were to look at a video, and I have a video I actually posted on TikTok, if you go to Ashley Sweder on TikTok, I'm smiling and dancing in this video. The average person that saw that video, they'd be like, "Oh, she's so happy. She looks like such a happy person." If you zoom in and you look at my eyes, you can see that's not the case. But the average person wouldn't have even known, to help me at that point.
It's interesting because I did talk to one young lady before our interview, this morning, and we were talking about that the eyes will not lie. People can smile and you can walk through and, pretend like you are happy, but your eyes, and it's also very important for us to start looking at people right in the eyes so that you can see what you're not being told, because sometimes that will help you ask the right questions that will also make them feel safe to talk about it. Because that's another thing, everybody wants to feel safe. Am I going to be safe with you? Not for you to be safe with the secret, because once they're in danger and they're talking about it's not a secret anymore, but it's about their safety to help them out of it.
Absolutely. I would definitely say, there's different things that you can hide. You can hide emotions. You can try and put on a brave face, but there's certain things that you can't control. And I think that absolutely you're right on that.
Yes. What do you tell your girls? How do you protect your girls? Because I mean, your kids, because I know you said one daughter. How many children do you have?
I have a daughter. I have rescued Chi as well. Chi is like my son as well. We rescued a Chihuahua. He is the sweetest thing in the world. My daughter is an amazing human being.
Yes.
I was told I couldn't have kids from some of the abuse. I have a lot of scarring in my stomach. So I was told I would never be able to have children. And God willing, I have a daughter. Like they didn't even want a pregnancy test me when I was at the hospital. They just said it's impossible. You're not pregnant. Yeah. I struggle with this every day because my daughter needs to be her own human being. She has the right to be her own human without me stressing her out or, trying to make decisions for her. And I'm going to give her that because she deserves it. She's such an amazing person. But I struggle because I'm so scared because I know what the world really is. I see so many people that, they send their kids off to school every day and they're smiling. And I send my child off to school every day. And I'm just worried because I still lack trust in a lot of scenarios where, my husband may be trusting of somebody and I look in their eyes and I'm like, are we 100% sure? I don't know, because the person that I met when I first met him, I thought he was a sweetheart. I just thought he was a great person. I had no idea. And sometimes you don't know what lies in a person. You don't know who somebody truly is, So I think for me, that's the hardest part, is not being a hover parent. My husband calls it like helicopter parent. So I'm working on that. But my daughter is she's such a good person. She has such a big heart. She truly cares about people. I call her the therapist. There was a time at school, the school called me and I guess something had happened at school and, two of the kids were crying and she went up to them and held their hands and said, if you tell me your words, I can help you. I can't help you for crying, but let's talk about it. Let's use our words. And I guess she was like a little therapist and she really enjoys helping people. So I'm so blessed. I don't know how I deserve her, but she's just so amazing. So for me, it's, I try and be very honest. I don't lie to my daughter. A lot of people try and make healthy vegetables and they hide them in food. I'm just somebody, I try and be very, very honest with her. I talk to her like an adult. We talk about things. We have a safe word if we ever go somewhere and she needs help. But I always just tell her, you need to be somebody who controls yourself. Like if you don't want to give somebody a hug, you don't have to. I'm not somebody who's ever going to force that. You can have your own set of boundaries. And I teach her that it's okay. Sometimes boundaries offend people and that's okay. Yeah. But you need to have your own set of boundaries. You need to have your own self-respect. And I try and help her through those scenarios and walk her through. She's a little shy. I was shy too when I was younger, but I'm trying to empower her now. Not run away. When I was younger, I ran away from a lot of those decisions. So I didn't build those type of coping mechanisms. So I'm trying to do the opposite with her, where even if we're scared, we're still going to do those, type of situations. We're going to handle them. We can do them together and we can hold each other's hand. When I went to court, my mother was there with me. She was there and there was actually, I'm going to cry. Oh. There was a female officer that I think she could tell that I was upset and she stood right next to me in between us. So it's being able to stand in those situations and be strong. And that's what I'm trying to teach her.
Yes. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And that leads us into the work that you're doing now. Because of the way that you just said it right now, I can also sense the passion that you have to make sure that, empowerment is a big, big thing of making sure that, our young girls and women are protected. So tell us a little bit more about your work.
Absolutely. So we have Fearless and Fabulous. I started Fearless and Fabulous. It is a nonprofit where we go out and support. I'll talk about some of the things that we've done. Number one, we have multiple streaming platforms. You can go to ashleysweder.com. You can make your pledge of why you're staying on this earth. And we will show everybody. If you want to make a video and send it to us, we'll put it on our platform as well. But Fearless and Fabulous started from a point where I had met my husband. He's an amazing human being. He's one of those people that you want when you're in a bad situation. He's very calm. And he's like, if you could crash your car, it's like, are you safe? Okay, let's figure it out. He's very matter of fact. Yeah. So for him, he always pushed me, be fearless, just go do it. And I'm going to stand behind you if you fall, but you have to get up there yourself and do it. So that sparked something in me where we can actually physically help a lot of these young women and even men who, by the way, commit suicide 4 times the rate as females do right now. So for him, he always pushed me, like, be fearless, like, just go do it. And I'm going to stand behind you if you fall, but you have to get up there yourself and do it. So that sparked something in me where we can actually physically help a lot of these young women and even men who, by the way, commit suicide 4 times the rate as females do right now. We can actually go in and support them. And how do we do that? So number one, we have streaming. We partner with a ton of different platforms. StayHere.org is one of the biggest. They reached out to 100 million people within the last few years. They have stopped 2,114 suicides in just 2014 alone. So StayHere.org is huge. They're a platform that they reach out to everybody. They're global. They have anything you need, whether it's getting in charge of a therapist, if you need a crisis hotline, they are there for you. So we partner with them. I'll be doing a podcast with them as well. There are multiple suicide hotlines as well that we partner. They're constantly streaming and constantly sending information out there that you need. The best part about these is you don't have to see anybody in person. If you're uncomfortable seeing a therapist in person, you can actually do texting where you can talk to somebody, calling on a phone, but there are so many different options that I wish I would have had a while ago, because you can text somebody and your abuser doesn't know, and they can get you help that way. So that's huge. And honestly, texting is where we're getting the most people support, and on those streaming platforms. We do go into the field. There's an organization that I recently helped. We have the Special Hearts Farm. Special Hearts Farm is an organization where they help people with special needs. What most people don't know is after 22, you age out of the system. You no longer get that governmental support. The majority of special needs will either be homeless or unfortunately commit suicide. So for the last 2 years, I've been working with them. We just got zoning for a ranch where they're going to have homes. They're going to have a place to physically live. And they're also being taught tools to the trade to make money. So they're going to be taught how to make soaps, how to plant their own food, grow their own food. So that is a huge endeavor that we started about 2 years ago with a very needed population. So we work with many different people. We also go to court. If you're somebody who has a court case and you need to go and you have an abuser and you're scared, we will go with you. We will show up. We will sit with you in the courtroom, and we will do exactly what somebody did for me. And that is stand in between your abuser if we have to. We will be there to show you, because I will tell you that the most empowered I've ever felt in my life is when that person was trying to look at me and intimidate me. And I had another female standing right there, right in his eye line, like, nope, you are not going to get to her right now. Like, your time is over. So that is something we can also do too. We help younger children and we do motivational speaking, and we help them with vision boards. Vision boards are huge. It is very important to understand, what are my 3, 6, 5-year goals? We got to a point where everybody talks about, what do you look like? What's your job? How about changing the discussion on, who do you want to be?
Yes.
Do you want to help somebody? Do you want to be a teacher, an astronaut, the president? Anything you want, we can support you. So we're involved in so many different things right now, which I'm really, really excited about. But what I will tell you is, streaming and all the support online, that is the wave of the future. And that is how we've been able to reach out to so many people.
Awesome. And all of these services will be found on your website.
Yeah, you can go to ashleysweder.com to find it. You can also go, I have an Instagram, Ashley Sweder. Also check out stayhere.org. Like I said, stayhere.org is amazing. You can donate to them. Also, if you're not in need of support, I believe it's $5 a month. That keeps all of these online streaming going 24/7. Like I said, these are all global. So if somebody needs help, if you're out there and you are struggling and you're too scared to talk to anybody, nobody has to know. You can go on one of these online streaming. They can get you help. They can get you a crisis hotline if you need. There is help out there. I promise. Do not suffer in silence.
Yes, yes. Just real quick, what advice would you give a young girl that is going through what you just described to us right now, and they're going through adversity or self-doubt?
And this took me the longest to understand. Give yourself grace. Grace. For so long, I did not think of myself as pretty, and I thought of myself as ugly and not deserving. And I was my own worst critic. I was somebody who, it didn't matter if 10 people in the room said I was the prettiest thing in the world. I was tearing myself down internally. Give yourself grace. Just because you don't look like the person that's on Instagram, just because you don't have the life that somebody has on Instagram or online or the Kardashians, guess what? 90% of what you're seeing is fake. Give yourself grace. You are an amazing human being. Every single person on this earth is strong. Just your difference in opinion and difference in views is so valuable to this earth. We would not have all the technology we have. We would not have everything we have here unless we had people that were different, had different ideas. And the last thing I would say is you can't run from what you're going through. You can't. Unfortunately, I learned the hard way, but you have to go through head first sometimes. And it is so hard and it is so scary. But if you run from one thing, you will run from everything. And there is support there. So if you fall, we are here to catch you. Reach out to me if you need help. I'm here as well. If you need any support, we're here. We'll come to your school. We'll speak at your school. We'll come to your events. We'll speak. We'll help you if anything's needed. But give yourself grace in 2025. Stand up for what you believe in. And if you fall, we're here to catch you if you need.
Oh, that is so awesome. Are there any events that you all are doing, planning for 2025 that we need to know about?
So there are a few events that are coming up. So I will be going to Worlds. I'll be competing for Mrs. World. That'll be January 23rd. I'll be heading to Las Vegas. I am planning an event in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, Las Vegas has one of the highest suicide rates. And you have a lot of self-destruction there. A lot of people go there, and unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't end well. So we'll be doing something on the Las Vegas Strip on January 23rd. I'm really excited. We're going to be sharing some stories. We're going to be having some signs out there and just showing people that they're worth it. And I also want to hear people's stories, and I'll be streaming it online so you can go and see some of the struggles that people are going through, but how they're getting through them and that inspiration. Because that's the biggest thing, right? It's great to hear, a lot of the superstars, how they got through adversity. But when you hear it from somebody who's physically going through something so challenging right now, because so many people are, especially with the way the economy is, right? Different job markets right now are difficult. So when you hear it from somebody that's going through it right now, it is so motivational to hear.
Yeah, awesome. But you know what? You just mentioned a pageant. So you're competing for another pageant this year, you said?
Yeah, so I'm on Mrs. Albania World. I'll be competing for Mrs. World.
Oh, look at that. Congratulations on that.
I'm
How is
excited.
that helpful for self-esteem, for those young ladies that are also trying to find ways of boosting their self-esteem?
So in the beginning for me, I think it was scary. Realistically, getting on stage, I was very scared. What I will tell you is I am trying to change the stigma. I'm just going to be very honest. I have a lot of scars from the incident still. I have not gotten them covered, so I will be on stage as me. I'm not going to be covering anything. So if it takes me going on stage to show every woman, no matter how scarred she is amazing and she can do anything. I hope that's what you gain from this, because what I'm trying to do with this pageant, you'll understand more when you see me on stage and when you see my national costume. This is so much bigger than I am. It has grown so large. This is no longer about me. It is about every single human being that is out there that is struggling. With my national costume, we're going to be giving back to our community. We're going to be thanking and showing respect for those that we have lost. And we're also going to be, showing strength, that there is a hope forward. So I hope that that's what you see from me. Like I said, I'm trying to bring the normalcy and just, I'm an average woman. I am your everyday mother who struggles and who is not perfect and who has wrinkles. And but like, let's be real, like that's what it is. There is nobody that's perfect. And there's sometimes where I gain weight and I eat cookies and I don't work out when I should. And I'm just, and that's what I want to portray. You don't have to be on a magazine cover. You don't have to be, perfect with no wrinkles and perfect makeup. And that I have the time my hair's on top of my head in a bun and I'm wearing sweatpants, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. And that's what I'm trying to bring in. And that's what I hope you see, is that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to live up to anybody's standards. Have your own set of goals and live up to that. And, follow my journey. I'm excited for you to see that, us moms, we can do anything.
Yeah, it's almost like I should have called this, the show or the title to be behind the beauty or beyond the beauty or beyond, because then when you go to your social media, to your website, you just like this gorgeous flashing that like you've got no problems. You were born gorgeous, and your story is about, beauty and what. To have this conversation with you, really enlightening. And my hope is that it's empowering to men and women who watch this, because then, the work that you're doing and making yourself vulnerable is also normalizing the fact that love yourself, believe in yourself. There is more to you than what other people see or what your experience in life is.
Absolutely. And when you see these amazing women that are competing, even like Miss Universe, right? When you're looking at this, I promise you, and I'm going to take a lot of like photos and things backstage so you can see, we get nervous. Like realistically, everybody thinks, oh my God, they're so confident on stage. If you were to see the first 30 seconds prior to them getting on stage, it's probably somebody sewing something because something ripped, a shoe breaking, somebody tripping. Like we're just normal human beings. And that's what I'm saying. Like, don't ever judge yourself based on anything else. Like, you're amazing. There's a quote that I found. I would like to watch a podcast and I like to listen to motivational speaking when I'm working out. And something somebody said was, there is nothing in this universe that is more powerful than a human's will to persevere. There is nothing that you will ever face that is stronger than you are. There isn't. And I can tell you, because when I tell people my story, they're like, how did you survive? And even today, I'm like, if you were to make me live through it, there's no way I could get through it again. It's not possible. I couldn't, but I did. And you can. There's so many times where you're going to come head on with a problem. You're going to get fired from your job, and it is going to be the worst thing in the world to you at that second. You're going to lose a spouse. You're going to, I don't know, get dumped, right? There are so many things where you sit here and you say, I could never get through this time. It is too hard and it is going to hurt so bad. But I promise you that you are so much stronger than what you're going through.
You just spoke on our mission and vision of the Bouncing Back podcast, because we talk about commit to yourself that no matter what, I will bounce back. Bounce back, yes, I can. Bounce back, yes, I will. And that you will. You have been and are a great example of bouncing back. So I want to commend you and thank you for what you're doing, because the world needs you, Ashley, and we will be watching you, as well, whilst you're floating and flying, because I'm so excited for your daughter, because then she's watching you more than she hears you. And I hope you remember that you can talk all you want, but she watches you more and say, oh, okay, I see what every woman can do. Besides fear, you literally can be fearless. And that's what you are, being an example of. So before we end, I just wanted to give you the platform to say your final words to the world as you continue to flourish and also empower and encourage.
If you take anything from what I've said, once again, there is nothing on this earth that is stronger than your will to persevere. You are amazing. You don't have to live up to anybody else's standards. You are fearless and fabulous.
Whoa. All right, Ashley, I'm going to be watching you. Thanks again for being on the podcast. And for those of you that are watching, if you would like to be a guest on the Bouncing Back podcast with DrStem, please email us at drstem14@gmail.com or drstemshow@gmail.com. Until next time, thank you again for watching and thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you so much.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Bouncing Back podcast with DrStem. We hope you found today's episode inspiring and packed with valuable insights. Remember, no matter the challenges you face, resilience is within your reach. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Join us next time for more stories of strength and perseverance. Until then, keep bouncing back.